Welcome to the Confidently Balance Your Hormones podcast. My name is Davidson, and I'm a hormone health expert, master mindset coach, and multiple wellness business entrepreneur. I'm obsessed with helping you experience hormone balance, confidence, self-love, and live a life full of joy. I know we're about to have so much fun together, so thank you so much for pushing play today. And now let's begin. Welcome to another episode of Confidently Balance Your Hormones. This is your guide, Dee Davidson, and today I have a special guest on with me. Her name is Alara Sage, and she's an intuitively gifted mentor, womb shaman, Shakti activator who coaches proactively and soulfully. She helps men and women heal their sexual trauma, reclaim their creative life force energy, Shakti, which we're going to learn about, and create exactly what they desire no matter the obstacles. Alara hosts the Ecstatic Woman podcast, which activates women in their power, authenticity, and bliss. So welcome, Alara. I'm excited to learn from you today.
Thank you, Dee. I'm so excited to be here.
So let's just start off by hearing a little bit about you and who you are as an individual and how you even came to helping people with this topic.
Yeah. I was sexually traumatized as a child and had forgotten about it. Well, I wouldn't say forgotten. I had blocked it out.
Mm.
And then in 2014, I went through what's called a spontaneous Kundalini awakening. So that's
Mm.
Kundalini Shakti. And, I was literally driving my car down the road, and my higher self came in because at the time I meditated, I was spiritual. And my higher self came in and told me to Om 3 times.
Mm.
And Oming was something that I knew what it was, but I didn't practice it. So I was like, okay, higher self. So I took a nice deep breath. All the way to the end. And I did that 3 times. At the end of the third breath, an energy shot from the base of my body, all the way through my body, out my crown. And I went into full body orgasm.
Wow, that's powerful. Everyone
It's
needs to learn how to
so
do that.
powerful. Yes. Well, and at the time, sexual orgasm was not only like I had never had a full body orgasm sexually, and I had even sexual orgasm was quite challenging for me.
Mhm.
I had to have everything just right. I had to really concentrate. And, then it would happen in just the right circumstances. So this was like a really new experience for me. And I didn't know what was happening. So I had this full body orgasm. I pulled the car over and, like let myself
Good thing you didn't
experience
crash.
that. Yeah. Luckily, I was on a back road going very slowly. And, and then after the orgasm subsided, I was in this real ecstatic bliss. I mean, I was beyond cloud nine. And, I got back on the road and I went to the freeway. And I just remember like having the radio cranked. I was dancing in the car, I was waving at everybody. I was really blissed out. And then throughout the day, that kind of subsided. And then what happened after that was pretty intense. So again, what had happened to me is what's called a spontaneous Kundalini awakening. And Kundalini Shakti is our creative life force. And it's is dormant at the base of our body. It's known as Kundalini when it's at that base. And once it activates, it opens, it's the coiled serpent, it becomes Shakti. But I didn't know any of this. I had heard about Kundalini, but I didn't know really a lot about it. And so as that energy shot through my body, it's primordial femme, and she's very healing. She's our own internal healing energy. And she awakened, opened, released a lot of stored, suppressed energy, trauma, and emotion
Mhm.
that I had. And so for the next 5 months, I was all over the place. I was, I actually kept asking my higher self if I was going crazy because one minute I would be laughing kind of hysterically at nothing. The next minute I would be on the floor crying, grieving, bawling, The next minute, I would be raging, just screaming, just so angry. And it was like, what is going on? Because I also had considered myself to be very emotionally stable, but
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't. I was
Mm-hmm.
emotionally suppressed.
Mm-hmm.
So this was all very new to me. And higher self just said, breathe and allow. So it took 5 months.
Wow.
And at the end of the 5 months, I started to reach an equilibrium. And that's when a book came into my space, as the universe does, called Kundalini Awakening. And the first chapter was about spontaneous Kundalini awakenings. And I learned what had happened to me. And after that, all of my memory of sexual trauma came back.
Wow. Wow. And how old were you when this awakening happened?
In 2014, how old was I? 20, I was 34.
Okay. So because a lot of clients, when they come to me, they think, okay, I'm just going to take a supplement or I'm just going to have a healing protocol. But we have to remember that we have a lifetime of these suppressions that you're referring to that have just been stuffed down. So it's just a good reminder to the listeners that you've been through a lot, right? And at 34 years, there's been a lot of things, and it's amazing that you just blocked that experience out. How does sexual trauma affect our hormones?
Well, sexual trauma is essentially, we ultimately believe that we're not safe in
Hmm.
our bodies.
Hmm.
And particularly for women, we believe that we're not safe in our sexual energy, which is our sexual power.
Hmm.
And so when we don't feel that we're safe, we protect.
Hmm.
And that protection is a level of shutdown or it's a level of guarding. And regardless of which way that is, there are energetic components to that that are it's kind of like either building a wall up
Hmm.
around your body and the organs within your body. So when we talk about sexual trauma, we're building up those protective energies around our yoni, around our womb, around our ovaries.
Hmm.
And this directly affects the release of hormones and the communication with our brain
Hmm.
about what is really going on in those organs. Because as I'm sure you've spoken about before, the vagus nerve is huge,
That's
right, with
right.
regards to hormonal balance, and that circuitry goes both ways, right? Our brain communicates to our organs and our organs communicate back to the brain. But if they've got energetic blocks around them, they won't communicate sufficiently back to the brain.
Makes
Another thing
sense.
that's really important to understand is that the G spot is directly correlated to our throat, our fifth chakra, which is our thyroid. And
Ah.
so a lot of times sexual trauma, and like I'm getting an image right now that I want to share of like I was sexually traumatized with a finger at a very young age, then that can really, again, like there's a shutdown that happens at the G spot. When
Yeah.
I used to have sex, the G spot felt like sandpaper to me. Like there was no pleasure there.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't even know that there could be pleasure there because I had
Uh-huh.
shut it down at the age of like 3 years of age.
Wow.
And when I opened it up, I was like, wow, this thing feels good.
It's awesome.
um, but so I had started acquiring thyroid issues,
Hmm.
right? Because of that G spot,
Connection.
yes, connection.
Can we just take a minute to talk about someone might be listening and might be wondering like what would constitute a sexual trauma? Because to me, that's so many things are coming to mind. So what would your definition or the umbrella of sexual trauma encompass?
That is such a great question. I don't think we ask that question enough. And my answer would be anytime that it's not a full-fledged yes.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Even a maybe like, I don't really know. Oh, I'm not sure. It's happening anyways. What happens is we create inner distrust, right? Like
Uh-huh.
our body's saying no, we feel pressure for whatever reason, we go with it anyways. There's distrust that's
Hmm.
created there. A boundary has been broken.
Hmm. And I just love that we're talking about sex here too. My partner Michael will say, I can't believe you put that out there, but it's important. Intimacy is important. And women oftentimes when they come to me, they feel badly, they feel guilt, they feel shame around the lack of interest in intimacy. And this really is an important topic for us to touch upon. And that's what was coming to mind for me, is that people might think that sexual trauma is just you were raped by someone, when in my mind there's so many instances of sexual trauma where you just might have gone along with it. And there is an energetic piece to that comes to life for sure, and it's going to affect your hormones and your body's state of ease. You have that disconnect, if you will.
Yes. I work with a lot of women with infertility
Mhm,
that have had very, quote unquote, soft sexual trauma, right?
mhm,
Where it's more like you were saying, what we were saying, of like they pushed through their own boundaries. Um, and and so what that did is again, it really made them not really feel safe. And so their reproductive system isn't functioning at its optimum because
mhm,
we don't even at a primordial level, we won't reproduce if we're not safe.
mhm, mhm. Agreed. And I recently had a conversation with someone about reproductive organs and everything working the way it's supposed to. I had an unexplained infertility journey myself, and it's just fascinating to me, the energetic piece of it. But also, a lot of women are uh, operating out of a very masculine place, and I love that. When I looked at all of your bio and all of your write-ups, that we talk about the feminine power, and that's an important thing to address as well. Have you thought about that or done any research about that, about how society has kind of molded women to come more from the masculine piece?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, how that affects our hormones, right?
Hmm.
Because um, it's huge. I mean, women are not in their feminine power.
Hmm.
And the feminine power hasn't been on our planet for over 5,000 years, which is something
Hmm.
really important to understand. 'Cause I had this
Hmm.
conversation
A
with a
long
man the
time.
other day, and he's like, "Oh yeah, the feminine power. That's my grandmother." And I'm like, "No,
No,
sweetheart. Bless
it
her soul.
wasn't.
I'm sure she was beautiful. She was not in her feminine power. Like
Right.
we're talking wild and, primordial and like very powerful and magnetic.
Yeah.
I'm sure your grandmother was sweet and, cooked you great
Submissive.
food.
They think because it's a
Submissive.
submissive is the
Exactly.
word
That's
that comes to
exactly
mind.
what I know. And so, like, again, what happens with that is we reject it, right? Because it hasn't been safe. It hasn't been how we succeed.
Hmm.
It hasn't been accepted. It has been really largely, subconsciously defined
Hmm.
as a crazy, uncontrollable, weak, right? And
Yeah.
so all of those things have been like, well, that's not safe. So again, we have blocked, suppressed, put protection around our womb,
Hmm.
which, hello, is a magical organ that literally brings ethereal energy into physical form. If that
So
isn't
true.
magic, like I don't know what is, right?
So
And
true.
so again, all of that protection affects how our body is communicating with
Hmm.
itself and how those hormones are being
Hmm.
released.
Right. That's so true. So what is Shakti? Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So the full name is the Kundalini Shakti. And then, so again, the Kundalini is in reference to before it is released, it is the coiled serpent. And then as it's released, it turns into Shakti. And Shakti is an archetype, a deity of the feminine.
Okay.
And so, a couple of things here. For one, Shakti, like I said, is that internal healing energy. So Kundalini Shakti is the symbol of it is a cross with two snakes. It's a serpent
Okay.
energy. That symbol is Western medicine,
Hmm.
ironically enough,
Hmm. Hmm.
which is ironic because there's like no connection there.
Right.
But that's where they got the symbol from
Interesting.
because that energy, as she moves, so when she begins her process, she moves up our body like she did for me, but she just did it very quickly and radically in my space. But generally, she takes a very long time. And she moves slowly through the body, and she even moves outside of the body to chakras outside of the body. And she opens up and releases and heals. And then ultimately, she reaches the crown where she meets the masculine Shiva, and we experience divine union, which is what
Uh-huh.
I experienced with that ecstatic bliss.
Wow. Now, I've heard of Kundalini yoga, is that related?
Yeah, so Kundalini yoga is them using yoga and particular breathing and movements
Hmm.
to activate that Kundalini.
Okay.
Ironically enough, it's a masculine way of approaching the primordial femme,
Wow.
which is interesting. But again, we haven't had the femme on the planet because, Shakti is the primordial femme. It's the pure essence of the femme. And the best way to kind of think of it is like the Ma, like Mother Gaia. Like Mother
Okay.
Gaia is an archetype of the mother.
Sure.
So when you think of her ability to create and destroy and flow and move and be cyclical and powerful and yet tender and delicate, that's the primordial femme.
Okay.
And everybody has it, not just women, right?
Okay.
Everybody has Kundalini Shakti. So when we awaken that energy within us, we really reconnect back to the feminine power that, again, we all hold, but particularly women, obviously, we have a womb and we have this real power to create through those organs.
Amazing. So the podcast, as you know, is titled Confidently Balance Your Hormones. And I know that a lot of doctors will say there's no such thing. You can't balance your hormones, which I challenge every single day.
Mm.
How does Shakti help balance hormones?
Well, she's naturally healing. And so when she moves through the body, for one, she's releasing that trauma. So,
Hmm.
like what happened to me, like all those emotions. And my experience was really intense. So, I don't want anybody to be like, screw that. I don't want to have anything to do with the Kundalini Shakti.
I don't want to
That
go
woman
crash in my car.
crazy. That's not how it usually happens. But it's a very exaggerated experience of how those emotions and that stored trauma came out, right?
Hmm.
So she releases those energetic blocks,
Hmm.
right? Which again, as we talked about, are going to allow for communication, but also then it truly allows for healing, which Western medicine doesn't always fully understand that our body can heal itself.
That's right. That's right. And the body wants to. The body wants to be
Yes.
healthy. The body doesn't want you to be sick. The higher powers don't want you to be sick.
No.
We are built with everything that we need to heal. If you think about the fact that you might cut yourself and your skin regrows, right? You have the
Yeah.
capability and the ability to do that when you tap into the intuitive, measures and things like that. It's really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, it's that
So
natural
it
homeostasis.
really is. It's a
Hmm.
state of ease, right? Ease and
Hmm.
balance. Okay, so someone might be listening, Alara, and they're going, okay, I don't want that to happen to me, right? I'm a little nervous. But where do they begin? Where do they take action? How do they start to activate this?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I don't know the percentage, but the amount of women who have had sexual trauma is like really, really high.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly with how we're defining it here. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you've ever blown through your own boundary, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first step is always awareness. And I love the state of curiosity because it really opens energy. As soon as we deny something, like, nope, that's never happened to me, we literally put it outside of our awareness. We cannot see it, we
Mm-hmm.
cannot feel it,
Mm-hmm.
but it still exists.
Mm-hmm.
So curiosity is like, have I experienced some sort of sexual trauma? Where and when? What happened to me? And as soon as you start to ask those questions, your body will be like, hey, yes, yes, we did. Yes, yes, yes. Let me show you, right? Let me help you to realize where you're holding it. So always being curious and asking those questions. And then this may be a little bit intense for some, maybe not, but I really teach exploration as well, physically with the body. If you really take the time just by yourself, like forget about any partner, right? And just really be with your yoni and really slowly just place your hands there. Place your hands over your yoni and breathe and just really be with her and touch yourself. If you've had sexual trauma, you'll start to connect to those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
There's a really beautiful practice of connection that also allows for you to slow down, connect to the body, and heal. As we said, we can.
Mm-hmm. That's really great. What types of tools do you offer? Like if someone wants to connect with you, where could they start with connecting with you about your experiences and moving forward with exploring some of this stuff?
Yeah, well, I have a great ebook on the front of my website called Awakening Aliveness that goes over like that type of practice of connecting,
Mhm.
and really, yeah, helps women to connect to their bodies in that way.
Okay, because I think sometimes, it's just such a private topic, people may be afraid to, share with me, but if they can feel safe to have a resource to start somewhere and look, it's always a great opportunity to get someone to take that first step.
Yes, yes. Then, and I want to say to anybody who is like feeling like sometimes this is a push-pull, right?
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
oh, this is so interesting and I can feel this. And then, like you said, simultaneously, this is kind of scary. Our sexual energy is so beautiful. I mean, it's pleasurable and it's transformative. It is in of itself also healing, it's regenerative, and it's powerful. It's so powerful. You can create your reality using your sexual energy, using your Shakti. So I just invite everybody to be curious about this, even if you feel fear, because this is such a deep connection to both your healing capacity of yourself and for others, as well as your personal power.
That is so great. There's nothing better than empowering women to find that in themselves for sure. And sexual pleasure, we talk about the master hormone oxytocin, right? It's just an amazing thing if you can activate that oxytocin, how it benefits all of your functions and your overall well-being.
And it really opens you, like your chakras, your channels. Orgasm opens up your centers. So that's not only it's not only the oxytocin that makes us feel good, but it's like we're open up and we're
Hmm.
our field is expanded. So
Hmm.
I'm a big proponent of like, yeah, gift yourself that regularly because you'll show up alive to life, right?
Sure, sure. Everyone deserves a good orgasm, right?
Yes.
On that note, we will drop in the show notes your links, but would you like to share them right now where people can find you and your podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's alarasage.com is my website. Like I said, right there on the front page, they can find that ebook called Awakening Aliveness. And I'm on social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Alara Sage. Yeah, and my podcast is called The Ecstatic Woman.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's been very informative and it's an important topic. So thanks for sharing with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Confidently Balancing Your Hormones. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd love for you to share it with a friend and also hit follow at the top of this podcast. If you have a couple of minutes and you can leave a quick review, it will help other women in need find this podcast. You can find me on Instagram at confidently_love_yourself. I would love to stay connected and hear from you.